Okay, welcome to today's show. This is Red Pill Phil. We're going to do something a little bit different today because I realize that I'm pretty advanced into some advanced things, and I don't want to jump ahead. I don't want people thinking I'm crazy just because I have studied and experienced things way beyond their level. So what we're going to do is we're going to simply go one by one, step by step, here a little bit, there a little bit, with our guest, Sean, who is still in the beginning stages. And we're going to discuss how I came to where I am today. I'm going to tell my story. And people, I want you to see how all this started. It began when I was still in third grade. And that is when I experienced my first interaction with the other world that's inside of the earth. People don't get it. They think that everything is, I don't know. The governments are working together to take over. And what people don't understand is it goes far beyond what's happening with the United States and Russia and China. It goes farther than that. But we're going to start at the beginning because I want to bring Sean up to speed. I want to tell him what happened to me when I was in third grade. And Sean, are you listening with me, Sean?
I can only imagine what you discovered in third grade.
In third grade, there was this older man up the street.
Are you okay?
He used to bring me candy.
Please go on. I feel like we need the authorities, but go ahead.
This guy used to come by. He wasn't a creep, Sean. See how his mind works? His mind works that way because he's under some type of influence. But I'm not trying to insult you, man. It's just, see how evil his mind gets immediately? Immediately! I cannot stand what they have done to our people. There was a man who used to bring candy by the house. He was a nice guy. Nice guy. Real nice guy. His name was Andy. He used to come by the house. Andy was a Freemason. His grandfather was a Freemason. His father was a Freemason. His great-grandfather, his brother, his cousin, Freemasons. Andy used to do something every time he would come. He would come and he would smoke one of his cigars, and he would take it, and it was an incense that had been under one of his spells or whatever it is he would do. I'm not in the mind of these demonic people, but this is when I was in third grade. But Andy used to come by and he would bring me candy. But what I didn't realize for the longest time, that candy was my first experience being drugged by the Freemasons.
I don't think you met the Freemasons there, bud.
That was Andy. Andy was a Freemason. Andy used to give me this candy.
And what did Andy do after he gave you the candy?
You see how his mind works? Works dark and evil. But that's fine, Sean. There was something in the candy. There was something that was in it. And it began to slow my brain. Well, a couple years later, I only had encounters with Andy, 5, 6 times. A couple years later, I was given a cat by a man who my parents had found somewhere. That man, when he came to bring his cat, he had a Masonic symbol on his arm. that cat was brought into our home, and that cat began to act really, really funny. This is the second experience. I mean, I was about 13 years old at this time. This was the second experience that I had with someone from that cult. So I began to research. That is when I began as a truther. I began to study the stars. I began to study into Freemasonry. And that's when I began to realize that what they were doing is they were putting spells on these objects, like this cat that came into our home and began to terrorize the dog. Terrorize the dog. Utterly terrorize the dog. And I began to learn about Hiram Abiff, and I learned that from the very beginning, back in ancient Egypt, the Freemasons have been working underground, trying to control the world. So the question becomes, why? Why are they doing these things? What motive do they have? Just like a detective, when someone ends up dead, I can't just go around pointing the finger and say, well, it's this guy, this guy, this guy. I have to come up with some type of reason of why these people would do this. Otherwise, it's just fictitious, right? Well, I began to study why they have these motives. And it began to all make sense. The reason why the Freemasons and the Illuminati began to wish to control the world in ancient Egypt connects to the pyramids. The pyramids are set perfectly at true north, because the point of the pyramid is pointing towards the North Star. And the North Star is at an angle right towards the planet of Saturn. And when you go through and you study, as I have, and as many others have studied, you see that Saturn and the North Star are a true line right towards the pyramid. And it only makes sense. It only makes sense that we had some type of visitation. No one else can explain how these pyramids were built, who built these pyramids. There was a visitation, but they weren't built by the aliens. There was a visitation to the center of the earth. And a lot of people think that's weird. Well, I began to study that the earth is not round as we think. The earth is a cone. It's not flat, but it is true there's no curvature. The curvature is under the earth. The best way to picture the way the earth is actually shaped, it's like two plates. And under the plates are a very, very, very small cone that begins to develop. Thin, thin, thin. And in the center of the plates, there is a ball. And it goes to the other side. On one side of the planet, what we have is our reality. You see pictures of this, and I'm going to put some pictures with the video. You see pictures of this all over. The earth is flat on our reality, but then it goes through a cone, to another ball, to another string, and then we have another plate. And we have a whole other dimension that we haven't even discovered yet on the other side of the plate.
Wait.
But we know that this is what the earth is like.
Did you just describe talking through cans with a string?
Right. Well, where do you think that comes from?
That comes from boredom in children.
Right.
And, science.
That works because of the way our reality has been strung together.
I think you misinterpreted the phrase string theory.
It's called the Kettering theory.
Kettering theory?
Yep. And Soulgrave.
Mm.
So anyway, you have to study some pretty top level physics. What do you think happened to Albert Einstein? Do you think Albert Einstein just died?
Well, yeah, old age.
No. He discovered time travel.
Oh.
And then he went through the earth, through the
middle?
pins,
Right,
through the soul grave.
Uh-huh. Then what happened? Did he pop out on the other end?
Well, he's currently living in one of the more advanced civilizations on the inside of the cone of the earth.
So if he's there right now,
Uh-huh.
and you know he's there, how did you figure out he was there?
I was abducted. And we're getting to that part of the story.
I feel like that's the answer to everything. Did the aliens tell you?
Well, as I started, see, the thing is, there's so much stuff out there. As I discovered this truth, I was actually visited by top-level CIA agents.
Okay.
They came to my home, and first of all, they started asking me, how do you know this stuff? How do you know this stuff? How do you know it? And I tried to tell them, well, first of all, there's a lot of things out there that Q has been letting all of us know. Q has been letting us know it through the tweets. And it really began when Donald Trump was elected.
Q?
Q.
The letter Q? Or are you talking like Q?
QAnon.
What are you talking about?
Q. Q is... See, there's several portals. There are several portals from the inside of the Earth out towards the outer crust. And for years, there have been deserters of the original system. People who have broke through the matrix, who are living on the inside of the Earth, who want to free us slaves. Do you understand?
Sure.
You do. You're following me.
Oh, absolutely. I've never been more engaged with anything in my life. It's compelling.
Have you ever heard anyone else believe these things? Or,
you know
because
what?
It's a pretty
you
common...
are the only... I'm fairly certain we'll never find anybody.
No. We have a convention every year.
I've never heard of it.
Well,
name one person.
It's called the Tram Convention. They come. I have a lot of followers. I'm Red Pill Phil.
Don't listen. We told you, talking in the mirror does not count as followers.
Okay. Well, at the end of the day, whether you want to accept it or not, Sean, this is a journey, and I'm trying to free other people as well. But it's very simple. It's very simple. Q has let everyone know that there is a deep state.
I think we should just send everyone to Piggly Wiggly, because apparently that's where all of the answers come from.
Right. Well, there are answers at Piggly Wiggly.
Are they coupons?
No, the only answers you're going to find is that the CIA has been poisoning people with LSD for years, and that's how they control our minds.
Right. Now, I thought LSD made people happy. Why is everyone so miserable?
There are many people that are happy.
Oh.
If you really knew what was going on, I mean, did you see the space station?
Oh yeah.
Why do you think you drive by a house and you see a guy sitting in his garage with a shirt up?
Well, he's probably working.
No, he's under the influence of LSD. But again, I was visited by some top-level agents. They started to question me. Next thing I know, 2, 3, 4 days later, I get a phone call. And guess who the phone call is? Guess who it is? It is someone who is closely related with someone in Washington. And this guy, he started telling me everything. Everything. You know him. He's in the media. He's very well known. He's labeled in America as a right-wing, fake news talk show host. But he's really much more than that. He's actually a detective. But he is under the jurisdiction of someone on the other side of the wall. The other side of the ice wall. Through the dome at the top of Antarctica. You go down into the dome. You go in there, and the first city you're going to get to is Gotham. And that's where we get these stories of Batman and Robin. All of that is obviously fake. Sean, don't try to make me out to be some lunatic who believes some wild, outlandish theories.
I would never spread rumors about you. There's nothing I could say about you that would not do any more harm than what you're doing already.
Sean, let me ask you something.
Go for it.
Let me ask you something. Seriously.
What? Okay, yeah, I'm listening.
Do you think,
Compel me.
honestly and truly,
Sure.
that the things you see on television were just made up by someone?
Well, it depends. Are we talking about the news, or are we talking about
Let me ask you, how does your phone work?
How does my phone work?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to be honest. I don't know how to put a phone together.
Exactly, because it's witchcraft.
Can you put a phone together?
No,
Okay.
it's witchcraft.
That's witchcraft.
Right.
Is it?
It's alien technology.
Well, how come it's out there for everybody to do? Right? You think building a phone is a secret?
I'm telling you now.
Okay. Tell me how to build a phone.
The only way that we know how to do that is because of the aliens. They've taught us.
Oh. The aliens gave us landlines.
No, I'm talking about your smartphone.
Oh, okay.
Landlines aren't difficult. We know how those work. How is it that you can click a button and take a picture on your phone, the same device, that you can also play Angry Birds?
It's the magic of technology. You do realize that there are smart people in this world?
Listen to what he said, folks. The magic of technology.
You're using phrases against me.
The magic of technology. And that's because even in his conscience, he knows that this isn't natural. He knows it isn't normal. It's witchcraft. We are under a spell. We are under a spell. But what people need to realize is that there is a world order authority that is created in the year 2058 in the inside of the earth. And that technology that we have today comes from them, because they reached out to the Saturn aliens, and then it all goes in a circle, folks. It all goes in a circle. Where do you think Hillary Clinton came from?
Her parents?
No. How do you explain what happened at Benghazi? What is your opinion? Tell me, Sean, how do you think the world works?
How do I think the world works?
Since you have so many answers.
All the answers, apparently. Are you sure that it doesn't matter what I say, you're just going to come back around to you or being abducted?
This is not a monologue.
What are you talking about?
This is a dialogue.
I didn't even say anything.
Tell me, how do you think the world works?
Not very well.
Okay. Where do you think smartphones came from?
From smart people.
But how do you think they got that intelligence?
Education.
So you mean to tell me that for 10,000 years we didn't know how to make a smartphone, and then all of the sudden Steve Jobs gets a visit from the space station, and Steve Jobs interacts with the Saturn aliens, and now all of a sudden, just because of his intelligence, we have an iPhone?
You see what you said? It was the words. It was important. I'm going to help you out here. This is a teachable moment, okay? You said 10,000 years ago. You can't say that and then come out of nowhere and say all of a sudden. It took time. 10,000 years passed.
We had nothing like an iPhone up until Steve Jobs interacted with the aliens.
Well, I would assume there was no iPhone before Steve Jobs, because he kind of created them. Just throwing that out there.
Right. And how do you think a man was able to do that? You see, the human race has not had these capabilities. They have not had these capabilities. It's not exist until what has happened. The authority in 2058 has made a breakthrough to the past. Back in the 19th century, we had a visitation of aliens that had been here before. The year 2058 and the year 1858 are connected. They cannot be broken. Go back and look. From the early 19th century, we have groups and cults and groups and cults. We have Seventh-day Adventists, Jehovah's Witnesses, the Wesleyans, the Freemasons were grown in number. How do you think that happened? There is a undeniable amount of evidence that time travel took place. And the connection of 2020 is connected with the year 2016. Donald Trump came back as well. There have always been dissenters, folks. There have always been dissenters. And there are dissenters in the year 2058 that are working through the cone of the earth, trying to communicate with us here, slaves, here on the early world. The dimensions were changed. Think about your own memory. Think about it. Had there not been times when you couldn't find your keys, where you knew where you put them? That is because all the time, constantly, it's happening. People are breaking into our dimension, trying to control us, trying to get us on the same page as the aliens. And that is only because we were visited years ago. That's how we have the aliens building what we see around us. I'm not sure how to get people to wake up to this. It's common sense. I mean, look, the Indians and Native Americans have been saying this for years. That is why white people who are under the influence of the aliens had to get rid of them. For years, people have been saying, take your picture, lose your soul. Take a picture, lose your soul. What do you think the iPhones are for? It's to capture souls and to take them deeper into the wormhole of the Matrix.
I have the perfect idea. You know what you need to do? I'll give you all the answers to your questions. Ask Siri.
And who do you think Siri is?
Just a program.
Right.
Yeah. You
Right.
and her would get along. I'm pretty sure the intelligence level is right on the same baseline.
You cannot argue with these Chinese
She
communists,
might
folks.
be a little bit higher.
And I mentioned Chinese communists because you got to understand. You have to understand. China was the first one.
To do what?
China was the first one to make contact. To make contact.
With what?
The year 2058. And the aliens.
Oh, the aliens. So the time-traveling aliens ended up in
No.
China.
No, the year 2058 made contact with the aliens.
A year? The year made contact.
No.
That's what you said.
The New World Order.
It's different things.
Have you ever seen the movie 12 Monkeys?
No, but I have.
That's all the time we have today, folks. I'm tired. I'm tired of going. But you cannot talk to these people. You know why he cannot understand? It's because he is under a spell, and that's why he keeps going to these doctors that are being paid by the aliens. That's it. I'm done.